So welcome everybody to the 18th annual Student Health Trivia and Discussion event. My name is Matt Mitchell. I am the Prevention Services Manager with the City of Somerville's Health and Human Services Department. And I had the pleasure of working with our SPF youth to help prepare for tonight's event. And it is going to be brought to you by the City of Somerville, our Health and Human Services Department, the youth, our middle school and high school Somerville Junior, SPF Junior and SPF 100 youth. Somerville cares about prevention and Somerville Prevention Services. So we have a jam-packed schedule, going to try and get through it as much as possible so we can end on time. So I think what we'll first do is kick it over for our welcome address from Mayor Katjana Ballantyne.
Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Katjana Ballantyne, the mayor of Somerville. I want to thank the Health and Human Services, especially Somerville Prevention Services and Somerville Cares for Prevention. Matt, thank you also for being our technical person this evening and everything you do. Also, thanks out to the Somerville Positive Forces, youth leadership, and students who took time to fill out the survey. It provided important information that can help shape the work that we're going to do here in Somerville. It's important to hear from you, the youth. No one knows the issues better than you do. And by being candid and sharing information as you have through the students' health surveys, you're helping the city and the schools prioritize, what we need to do to make things better, more impactful for you as youth. And having you involved in prevention education is important. Sometimes the message is best coming from one of your friends. And so reaction to the survey data. Well, I don't want to get too specific here to avoid spoiling any trivia questions, but wanted to share some high level thoughts that came from the surveys. You students are reporting that there's less substance abuse. And many have also reported they know of healthy ways to cope with strategies. However, we do know that COVID-19 has had negative effects on many students regarding mental health. And I certainly, and my administration is certainly committed to supporting all residents' mental health and needs during the pandemic. We are still seeing some health disparities affecting girls, women, genderqueer students, and students of color. And it's important to look at answers broken down by race and gender so we can address the health needs more equitably. The data collected is in the surveys helps, as I said earlier, the city and the schools to focus on what students need to have healthy lives. So I thank you so much. I welcome you for all that you've done, and your engagement is invaluable to our city. And I hope you enjoy the trivia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ballantyne. We thank you for making time to join us tonight, and we appreciate your support for our efforts, and we look forward to continue working with you going forward. So welcome, and let's get started. So unfortunately, Lovely was unable to attend tonight, so I will be stepping in for some portions that she would have. But we just want to talk about SCAP, Somerville Cares About Prevention. It's a community-based coalition that is housed in the Health and Human Services Department. It works to reduce underage drinking and substance misuse in Somerville. Somerville Positive Forces, SPF, is a leadership program that engages youth in designing and implementing prevention projects and using prevention best practice. SPF leaders helped to create tonight's event for you, and we're pleased you could join us to learn more about teen health and share ideas to create a healthier community for teens. So without further ado, I do want to get to our additional guest speaker. Her name is Adrienne Kasmally, and she is from C4 Innovations. Adrienne is a research coordinator at C4 Innovations, where she's working on Project AMP, a near-peer mentorship program for adolescents. In her role, she's evaluating, the efficacy of substance use, prevention, and early intervention resources for adolescents. She's also working with SPF Youth this year as they conduct their own youth-led research study. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Adrienne.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this event. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so grateful to work with SCAP and the SPF leaders. As Matt said, I'm Adrienne. I'm a research coordinator with C4 Innovations. And at C4, we advance access to recovery, wellness, and housing stability for marginalized communities. And in part, we do that through research and evaluation. The data that we collect allow us to answer critical questions that help us to understand the needs of our communities and then translate that into better services and supports. We at C4 connected with SPF to advance youth voice in this space. We really wanted to hear directly from youth about the issues that are affecting other young people in their community. So in our collaboration, we're working closely with the SPF youth leaders and looking at the results of the student health survey and talking to them about how they can instigate change in Somerville. So the survey asked youth about their experiences with alcohol and other drugs, mental health challenges, interpersonal violence, and the effects of the ongoing pandemic. And these data can help us to understand what the issues are facing youth and help spark conversation about what we can do to better support our young people. Survey and data like these have resulted in increased federal funding for school mental health services across the country, increased efforts towards substance use prevention and early intervention in our schools, and then things that are seemingly as small as increasing the number of recreational activities available after school and on the weekends for young people that promote their wellness. So these data that we're going to look at are a window into the lives of our young people, the issues that they're facing, what's working, what's not working for them. And it can help us assist us all as community leaders and policymakers and school administrators in better supporting our youth through identifying and addressing youth issues and creating systems and programs that better meet the needs of youth today and better understanding the overall well-being of our young people. So as Matt said, we'll kick off today with a trivia game using data from the 2021 Student Health Survey. And then it will be followed by a World Cafe portion where we'll discuss these issues and brainstorm solutions in small groups. And our SPF leaders will be joining and sharing their own experiences and ideas for change. So I'm grateful that we're all gathering in this space to discuss the health and wellness of Somerville middle and high school students. And I encourage you all to pay close attention to the data during our trivia section and listen closely to what our SPF youth leaders are sharing. This is an opportunity to not only see the broad picture of Somerville youth health through the data, but to also hear directly from our youth about what they're experiencing and observing among their peers. So as they speak, ask yourself what you can do to promote progress and change for youth health or how you can advocate for youth well-being. And so with that, I will pass it back to Matt. And I look forward to joining you for the trivia game and the discussions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne. We're so glad you are working with us this year. It's an opportunity that I think we couldn't pass up. And I think we're looking forward to seeing what's going to come from it. So without much delay, I think we need to just get into the trivia at this point. I think we're building the anticipation enough. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to our SPF youth who will start the trivia portion of our event. But before I do so, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we understand that some of the material that we may discuss in the questions and discussions may, evoke or bring up some certain emotions for people. So we encourage you to take space if you need to, and that we will offer our list of resources at the end of presentation if anyone feels like they need further support. And if anyone wants to see the full summary report, it is available online. It's on our webpage, Somerville Prevention Services, on the main city page. And you can find all the surveys dating back, I think, to 2002. So you can find it for a lot of trend data. So as I mentioned, I'll turn it over to the youth now.
Thank you, C4, for that wonderful welcome address. My name is Shahat, and I'm an SPF Junior Leader.
And I'm Bhavika.
Before we begin, let's talk about the survey a bit. In 2021, 821 middle school students and 601 high school students voluntarily took this post-check student health survey. The survey topics include substance use, violence and safety, mental health, sexual behavior, weight and physical activity, and resiliency.
For participant demographics, grades included middle school grades 6 to 8 and high school grades 9 to 12. Genders included male, female, genderqueer, and questioning. Genderqueer listed as not exclusively male or female, such as gender fluid. Also defined to be not identified as either male or female, but instead to be neither, both, or partly male and partly female. Race/ethnicity included American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian/Pacific Islander, white, other, multiracial, and Hispanic/Latino.
So how do we know the results are valid? They're anonymous, trends show consistency across years. Data is in line with state and national data. Do some students lie? Sure. However, the survey tool and evaluators take that into account. Some questions are asked in different ways to check for consistency. Each survey is reviewed by a data analysis for inconsistencies and frivolous answers. Students that underreport and students that overreport equal each other out. Inconsistencies are taken out and not part of this data set.
Now that you know more about the survey, let's play our student health trivia. To play the game, we will read a question, then you will select the answer you think is the best and type the corresponding letter into the chat box.
Following our student health game, there will be an opportunity for you to share your thoughts and ideas about student health issues in breakout groups. Breakout groups facilitators work in this topic area and will share your ideas with community leaders to help inform needed support. The first set of questions are focused on the impacts of the pandemic. Okay, get ready to play.
Hi, my name is Francis and this is Olive, and we are both SPF youth leaders. Beginning in early 2020, the United States experienced the coronavirus pandemic. While the extent of the pandemic's effects on the youth is unknown, early evidence shows that it has had a profound effect on students' well-being. This section will focus on the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic on Somerville Middle School and high school students. Now let's hear our first question. Over 1/3 of SHS students surveyed reporting that they struggled with their mental health most of the time or always during the coronavirus pandemic. A, true, or B, false. You can put your answers in the chat now, please.
The correct answer for this question would be A, true. For Somerville Middle School students, about 1/4 surveyed reported struggling with their mental health most of the time or always.
Moving on. Which populations of students reported that they were more likely to report struggling with their mental health? A, genderqueer, B, multiracial, C, females, or D, all of the above. You can put your answers in the chat now, please. Most of you are saying D, and
The correct answer would be D, all of the above. Female, genderqueer, and multiracial students were significantly more likely to report struggling with their mental health.
about half of all students reported surveyed experiencing feelings of anger, sadness, worry, or numbness during the frustration in reaction to the coronavirus pandemic. A, true, or B, false. And now you can put your answers in the chat.
Seems like the majority of people are saying A, and the correct answer would be A. 49% of Somerville Middle School students and 61% of Somerville High School students, respectively. In addition, about 28% of SHS and 32% of Somerville Middle School students surveyed reported having difficulty concentrating or making decisions.
What percentage of Somerville Middle School students surveyed reporting having a family member or close friend who died? A, 4%, B, 14%, C, 24%, or D, 34%. Now you can put your answers in the chat.
So for this one, there seems to be some mixed answers, anywhere from B, C, or D. The correct answer would be C. While the majority of students did not experience adverse financial or health-related effects of the coronavirus pandemic, 24% of Somerville Middle School students and 22% of Somerville High School students reported having a family member or close friend who died.
More than 1 in 4 students reported sleeping fewer hours because of worry, loss of self-confidence, and feelings of unhappiness, depression, and constant strain. Is this A, true, or B, false? Put your answers in the chat. Most of you are saying A, and it's A.
The correct answer would be A. The distress that students face has been generally exacerbated by COVID-19. However, it follows the historical trend of increased depression, anxiety, and stress experienced by young people.
Moving on to physical health and activities.
Hi, my name is Caden, and this is Michaela, and we are both SPF youth leaders.
This next section is on physical health and activities. During this time of adolescence development, students experience tremendous changes and have many questions about their physical health.
It is important for our community to provide opportunities for youth to voice their questions and concerns in these areas. Now let's hear our first question.
What percentage of Somerville High School students surveyed reported engaging in an outside of school time activity? A, 78%, B, 68%, C, 58%, or D, 48%. Please put your answers in the chat.
It looks like it's between C and D. The answer is C, 58%. About 3 out of 5 students surveyed engaged in an outside of school activity.
What were the top barriers to participating in outside of school time activities reported by Somerville High School students surveyed? A, didn't know about it. B, had too much homework. C, needed at home. D, both A and B. Please put your answers in the chat.
All right, and the answer is D, both A and B. High school students reported that they didn't know about the activity or had too much homework to participate. Students of an other race were more likely to report no participation.
What percentage of Somerville Middle School students surveyed reported engaging in 60 minutes or more of physical activity on 5+ days per week? A, 27%, B, 37%, C, 47%, or D, 57%. Please put your answers in the chat.
Oh,
Looks like a lot of mixed answers here, but the answer is B, 37%. This was slightly
listening
lower
to the
for-
Somerville.
This was slightly lower for high school students, with only 34% engaged in this level of physical activity.
What percentage of Somerville High School students surveyed reported getting the recommended hours of sleep, 8+ hours a night? A, 24%, B, 34%, C, 44%, or D, 54%. Please put your answers in the chat.
Right, looks like mostly A, which is the correct answer. A, 34%. 66% of high school students and a few middle school students sleep health is just as important as the food we eat and regular exercise.
About what percent of Somerville Middle School students and Somerville High School students surveyed reported eating vegetables the day before they took the survey? A, 48%, B, 58%, C, 68%, or D, 78%. Please put your answers in the chat.
It's like a bit of mixed between B and C, but the answer is C, 68%. The city is working hard to make sure that healthy fruits and vegetables are accessible and affordable to all. Visit somervillefoodsecurity.org to learn more.
About 2/3 of both Somerville Middle School students and Somerville High School students surveyed reporting having one or more caffeinated drinks the day before taking the survey. A, true, or B, false.
And this one is A. Sugary drinks can have a negative impact on mental health, sleep, money, and tap water is safe to drink and free.
Sexual behaviors and reproductive health. Hi, my name is Zaki and this is Hadi. We are both SPF youth leaders. This next section is on sexual behaviors and reproductive health. For this section, it is important to consider how our community can help address youth needs as they relate to healthy sexual development. Get ready. Here is our first question.
Most students surveyed never had sexual intercourse. A, true, or B, false?
And the answer is A, true. 76% of Somerville High School students and 97% of Somerville Middle School students surveyed reported that they have never had sexual intercourse in their lifetime.
What percentage of Somerville High School students surveyed talked with parents about AIDS or HIV infections? A, 21%, B, 31%, C, 41%, or D, 51%. Type your answers in the chat.
And the answer is C, 41%. Considered ways we increase HIV and AIDS education among youth.
What percentage of Somerville High School students surveyed reported never sending or receiving a sexual message? A, 11%, B, 21%, C, 31%, or D, 41%. Type your answers in the chat.
Turn it on for a second.
And the answer is C, 31%. How can our community educate youth about the risk associated with sending or receiving such messages?
What percentage of Somerville High School students surveyed reported knowing where to get help for sexual health services? A, 39%, B, 49%, C, 59%, or D, 69%. Type your answers in the chat now.
The answer is B, 49%. About half of Somerville High School students surveyed report knowing where to go for sexual health services. This concludes our section on sexual behaviors and reproductive health. Next up is violence and safety section.
Hi, my name is Hashim and I'm an SPF 100 youth leader. This section is on violence and safety, including questions about bullying, harassment, and other supports. For this section, it's important to consider how our community can help develop strong, trusting, and respectful relationships among students and adults. The first question is about what percentage of both Somerville Middle School and Somerville High School students surveyed reported being physically hurt on purpose by someone they were going out with. Was it A, 1%, B, 3%, C, 5%, or D, 7%? Please put your answers in the chat. So it's mostly between B and C right now in the chat. The correct answer is B, 3%. 2% for Somerville Middle School and 3% of Somerville High School students surveyed, Black and Hispanic / Latino Somerville High School students. Somerville Middle School students of an other race and gender queer students were more likely to report experiencing sexual violence by anyone. What percentage of Somerville Middle School students surveyed reported being electronically bullied? Was it A, 5%, B, 10%, C, 15%, or D, 20%? Okay, the correct answer is C, 15%. This increased for Somerville Middle School students surveyed from 9% in 2019, yet decreased significantly for Somerville High School students, 6% in 2021 versus 12% in 2020. Black Somerville High School students, multiracial Somerville Middle School students, and genderqueer students were more likely to report being electronically bullied. About what percent of both Somerville High School and Somerville Middle School students surveyed reported ever having someone post something about them on social media that made them upset or uncomfortable in the last 12 months? Was it A, 5%, B, 14%, C, 19%, or D, 25%? The correct answer is B, 14%. How can our community educate youth about potential risks of social media? The next section is the mental health section.
Good evening. My name is Ariana, and I will be presenting the mental health section with Benjamin, and we are SPF 100 youth leaders. Mental health can impact a student's overall wellness as well as engagement and risky behaviors. Students reported needing more access to a variety of supports and resources, including internet-based, social media apps, etc., in addition to responsive, caring adult. Please keep this in mind for our discussion later as we go through the following sections.
Okay. For both SMS and SHS students surveyed, which of the following caused the most negative stress in the past 12 months? Was it A, school demands, B, worrying about the future, C, keeping up with the schoolwork, or D, all of the above? Please type your answers right now in the chat box.
It looks like a lot of D and C. And the answer is D, all of the above. These were the top negative stressors for both middle school and high school students.
Okay, next one. What percentage of SHS students surveyed experience struggling with their mental health most of the time or always during the pandemic? Is it A, 14%, B, 24%, C, 34%, D, 44%? Please type your in the chat box right now.
Looks like a lot of C and D answers. And the answer is C, 34%, compared to 22% of Somerville Middle School students surveyed. Oops, I don't know if Benjamin lost Wi-Fi, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I got lost. I'm sorry. My internet was acting weird. So where are we on?
We're on this question here.
Okay. So what percentage of SMS students surveyed reported any self-harm one or more times in the last 12 months? Is it A, 5%, B, 8%, C, 11%, or D, 17%? Please type your answers in the chat box right now.
a lot of B answers. And the answer is C, 17%. This was slightly lower than Somerville High School students surveyed at 11%. How can we best support youth in times of trouble?
Okay. Most students surveyed reported having at least one trusted teacher or adult at school who they could talk to a problem about. Is it A, true, or B, false? Please type your answers in the chat, please.
Seeing some B and A answers. And the correct answer is A, true. 58% of high school students and 59% of middle school students have a school adult to talk to about problems. This concludes this section on mental health. Next up is on substance misuse.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kate. I'm an SPF 100 youth leader, and I will be presenting this section on substance misuse. Substance misuse is defined as when an individual consumes substances like alcohol, tobacco and nicotine, marijuana, and or other drugs, which could have a negative impact on development and life. Our program has worked hard over the last 18 years to prevent youth substance misuse and related issues. So for this section, when I say lifetime use, I mean if a student has ever used that substance at any time in their life, even just once. And when I say 30-day use, that means that the student used the substance in the last 30 days. Okay, let's get started. First question. Most Somerville Middle School students and Somerville High School students surveyed have never used any substance in their lifetime. Is it A, true, or B, false? Please put your answers in the chat. I'm seeing a mix of A's and B's, but looks like more A's. And the answer is A, true. Somerville Youth are making informed decisions and prevention works. All right, next question. What percentage of Somerville High School students surveyed that they don't use electronic vapor products? And this on the survey was listed as 30-day use. Is it A, 62%, B, 72%, C, 82%, or D, 92%? Please put your answers in the chat. Okay, I'm seeing mostly C's and D's. The answer is in fact D, 92%. While still low, this shows that e-cigarette use more than doubled in 2 years. Somerville Prevention, and SPF Youth are working hard on this topic, particularly with strong policies and awareness campaigns. Next question. What percentage of SHS students surveyed don't drink alcohol? And on the survey, this was 30-day use. Is it A, 81%, B, 86%, C, 91%, or D, 96%? Please put your answers in the chat. Looks like mostly C's in the chat. The answer is C, 91%. This is up from 2009. Now, 91% surveyed don't drink. What percentage of Somerville High School students surveyed don't use marijuana? And this was 30-day use. Is it A, 91%, B, 93%, C, 97%, or D, 100%? Seeing a mix of answers here. The answer is A, 91%. While this is an encouraging trend, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to increase education and awareness about the harms connected to marijuana and reduce exposure to marijuana, alcohol, and tobacco at home and in the community. Okay, next question. Which of the following substances did most Somerville High School students surveyed report were most accessible to them? Is it A, cigarettes, B, vapes or e-cigarettes, C, alcohol, or D, marijuana? Seeing lots of B's in the chat. The answer is B, vapes and e-cigarettes. Most Somerville High School students reported vapes, 61%, were easiest to access, followed by alcohol and then marijuana. Next question. Which substance does Somerville High School students surveyed perceive having the most risk? And on the survey, this was indicated as being moderate or great risk. Is it A, alcohol, B, cigarettes, C, vapes or cigarettes, or D, prescription drugs? The answer is D, prescription drug misuse. Youth surveyed reported marijuana, vaping, and alcohol use as less risky than prescription drug misuse. While all these substances are legal, it doesn't mean that they are safe. Next question. Of Somerville High School students surveyed who have ever drank alcohol, what was most likely the age that they had their first drink? Is it A, 11 or 12, B, 13 or 14, C, 15 or 16, or D, 17 or older? Seeing some mixed answers in the chat. The answer is C, 15 or 16. Parents, we think it's never too early to talk about the risks of underage drinking and drug use with your child. And that concludes the substance use section. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Sean. I'm an SPF leader. This concludes our student health game. Give yourself a big round of applause. You did a great job playing, and we hope you had some fun. Now you have a better understanding of Somerville's youth health behaviors and the issues we must address for our discussions coming up next. First, let's celebrate the many positive student health behaviors that are possible with the support of our community and leaders like you here tonight. Some successes include reported current substance use has steadily decreased for all substances. More students report having healthy coping skill to release stress. Most students report having an adult they can talk to about a problem. Reported electronic bullying for Somerville High School students decreased significantly. While we have lots to be proud of, we still have some challenges to address. Some of our biggest challenges include health disparities persist for female youth, gender queer youth, and youth of color. Reported electronic bullying for Somerville Middle School students increased significantly. Schools continue to be the most common reported cause of overwhelming stress. Students reported not participating in out-of-school programs due to too much homework or because they did not know. Students reported perceptions of harm regarding use substances and use has decreased steadily, except for misuse of prescription drugs. Reported physical activities remain lower among students. Next up, we will discuss how we can address these challenges together as a community. Now we will turn it over to Astrid and Abigail to begin the community discussion.
Hi, my name is Astrid and I'm an SBF leader. Now that you have a good idea of Somerville student health, we will ask you to work in groups to share your experiences, concerns, and ideas for each topic area. You will have 7 minutes to discuss the health topic in your breakout rooms and then move to the next topic section.
Hello, I'm Abigail. I'm also an SPF leader. Continuing to what Astrid said, community leaders working in these health areas will facilitate our discussion, record your ideas, and share back some highlights at the end. They will introduce themselves and their agency during the discussion. In the event, SCAP will share these ideas and community organizations and leaders working in these health areas to support needed change effort. So if it's important to you, know your voice matters, and our ultimate goal for these discussions is to inform and motivate change efforts.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, youth, for doing such a great job of presenting. We are going to transition to the breakout room. So there are some key instructions that I want to make sure everybody knows as we do break up into them. So there's going to be 5 breakout rooms total, 1 for substance misuse, 1 for mental health, 1 for physical health, another for violence and safety, and the last on sexual and reproductive health. So what's going to happen is I'm going to break you up automatically into the 5 groups. Once you're in that group, you're going to stay in that room as a participant. The only people that will be leaving the rooms will be the facilitators. So every 7 minutes, you're going to get a new facilitator who's going to talk about a different topic area. So with that, I'm going to jump right in. So we're staying on time with everything. Going to assign them now. Facilitators, you can now join as well. I've reassigned you all.
Great. Just going to ask, just want to make sure I didn't click beforehand. And then Matt, we'll be leaving. We'll be the ones leaving each time when it's time, when the group ends.
Yeah, I will put that prompt up.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks.
Welcome back, some of you. Gonna have to do a real quick share back. Everyone back? All right, great. So in the interest of time, I'm going to jump right into the Shareback section. So if everyone can give, if the facilitators can give their elevator speeches and do it in 1 minute, just summarize the top themes that were reviewed in the discussions. So we'd like to start with substance misuse. So Bonnie?
Okay, thank you. Well, the major issue was vape use, which I was really surprised by. So a lot more to say about it, but some of the suggestions were that there needs to be more education, there needs to be more regulation, education about the dangers. So that's it in a nutshell.
All right, thank you. And just for everyone to know, we will be compiling the list of feedback that the facilitators were taking notes on and hopefully sending out to folks right shortly thereafter. But next up, I have mental health. So that would be Sarah and Hallery, whoever would like to talk.
I can go. The one thing that kind of came out was just a lot of stress and not an understanding from the adults about what some of the young people are facing. A lot of people talked about the transition back from remote learning into in-person learning, that's brought up a whole new level of stress for students kind of coming back. There was a lot of talk too about what can be done, just giving more support, more people, people that are specifically assigned to support around mental health and resources. So students know who they can go to in times of struggle and just have an assigned person to talk to. And then a lot of students talked about offering breaks too, that the learning that just has to happen all day can be really overwhelming and stressful, and being able to have breaks built in throughout the day, like they did kind of during remote learning, would be helpful for them. And if I missed anything, I'll let Valerie add anything.
No, I think that's a great summary.
That was concise. That was very good. Thank you, Sarah. Next up, I have physical health. So Lisa or Heather.
But let's have Lisa. Lisa took the notes.
I'll jump in. So we heard, a few themes. One was that there's just a lot of homework and competing priorities when you get out of school, whether it's work or homework. The wintertime makes it even harder to be active, and particularly COVID makes it even harder to be inside with friends. And again, if we could have one bigger space for people to hang out, that would be helpful. Things like, outfits in terms of what people wear for sports, that makes it challenging. If maybe it could cover more parts of our bodies, that might be helpful and encourage more people, or more affinity groups where people could be having a more array of options to participate in activities. What I miss?
Just one really good thing that was brought up about the high school, like a lot of the high school stuff shuts down at 4 p.m. And so making that space available longer, or having alternate space, especially in winter and especially during COVID.
Awesome. You guys are crushing it on this 1 minute elevator speeches. Thank you. Next up, I have Danny with violence and safety.
Yeah, I'm terrible at 1 minute, so I'll do my best. Yeah, some of the big stuff that came up around violence and safety, those number of issues. One, people feeling like there's a uptick in fights in the high school in particular, and down by Walnut Street, the playground over there. But also not just the uptick in feeling like there's more fights, seeing things kind of spill over from being online to in person, kind of level of disrespect going on there. There's a lot of stuff around that people are looking for, like access. Like, so there's a fight, you're supposed to, talk to a trusted adult, but it's like, all right, well, if you don't have that relationship, who are trusted adults that young people can go to that they feel they can talk about this with? Also, the idea of, you know, sometimes everyone says don't be a bystander, but there's also a level of risk in interjecting yourself in someone else's conflict. So a few things is levels of like de-escalation classes or ways people can look at, they can kind of diffuse things before they happen. But there's also stuff when people talked about in different groups, there's also like sexual violence that's going on, and people looking at like consent education and what does that look like. A lot of young people feel like maybe their friends aren't as aware, or know a lot of people who have actually dealt with sexual violence, and just not having for education for everybody around that subject. And then just kind of the need for the peer-to-peer mediation is another piece. And I know the mediation program was really big when I was up in high school. I don't know what it looks like today. And then a last piece is just when we think about the engagement, this connects to all the other pieces. We talk about, I think 52, I could be wrong in the data if I remember it well. It was like 52% of kids or something know what's going on, but that means the other 48% don't. But also, if those 48% don't, but also are the resources that are available, because there are a lot of them, the ones that are in need for them, and the ones that will best service the needs that they might have. So that's my best job to sum it up in a minute.
That was good. Thank you, Danny. And last but not least, I have Chris with sexual behaviors and reproductive health.
Thanks, Matt. I'll do my best. So what came up was a lot of pressure around sexual activities, particularly with, it looks like young females, that it's something that comes up a lot, and that there's very little discussion about consent. So to build off what Danny said, that consent, it sounds like consent training and having more health education around consent and some of those things, as opposed to like the specific mechanics, would be really helpful. And also that there should be more education around STDs like HIV and AIDS, that's not necessarily being discussed enough. And also that the sexual health education is very cis-normative, that queer sex and gay sex is almost never discussed, and the need for students to understand how to keep themselves safe, and for all students to be able to have frank discussions about sex and sexuality and have the information they need to make informed decisions.
I see the snap from Heather. I agree with that. Thank you, Chris. That was very succinct. We are just about 1 minute over, but I did want to end just to let people know that we do have some support. So I don't know if people know about the Somerville Public Schools Together campaign, a campaign to support the mental health and social emotional well-being of Somerville's young people. So if you go to the bit.ly link here, you'll see there's access to a wide range of services, talks a little bit more about some supports, as well as way to connect with people. So I encourage you to check it out if you have not checked it out yet. And last but not least, wouldn't be public health if we didn't have an evaluation. So if you could take the survey, it would just help us improve quality of this going forward. I mean, it's our 18th year, so we should kind of know what we're doing, but I mean, we got thrown for a loop now that we're doing it via Zoom. So let us know, be brutally honest. And I just want to give another big round of applause to our youth tonight. They really did a good job, great job. I shouldn't say good job, great job. They stepped up, doing it virtually and being able to connect with everyone. And I also want to thank Mayor Ballantyne for staying the entire time and participating in the groups. We're hoping that some of this information will head your way soon. So we'll compile everything and send it over to you. But do you have any final words before we wrap up?
Thanks. I just want to say thank you, and thank you to the young people who were in my breakout group for sharing your thoughts. It was very informative. And the facilitators, you guys are awesome.
I echo that sentiment. They really did me a solid helping me out. So I think we'll just give a big round of applause to everybody that came tonight. Have a good rest of your night. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. M. Mitchell at Somerville.
Actually, I have a question. Do you know, hang on. Do you know, sorry, I forgot who I want to ask. Is that okay?
I'll connect with you offline, Benjamin.
All right. What I was saying is, do you know if we're gonna meet in person next week?
I'll message you on the side.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.